would love to look at other countries and live there. While if I was younger, I'd do it again. I'd do that instead of just growing up in America. I find that boring.
I want to talk to you about that.
I would love to go to Germany.
Wait, pause it. Because I feel like traveling.
Go to Germany.
Yeah. Wait, pause it. Pause it. Okay, so we'll talk about that. All right, let me introduce Matthew or Matt. Hi, good evening, and welcome to another episode here at Bravery and Healing. I'm here with Matt or Matthew.
Matthew's fun.
Matthew, who is a community member of the DMV area, but he does find himself writing beautiful lyrics. He's around high school students for his job, for one of his jobs, and he really likes to encourage them to write poetry, and maybe even take that to a podcast level so that someone who could just hear the youth, write some beautiful poetry and some beautiful short stories. And that's Matt right here.
Well said.
But we
said.
were
Though I mean, I have young people. I'm much younger than myself.
Yeah.
And like an athletic coach, I'd like to see some of the kids go into writing.
Yeah. You encourage them to write.
Because your mind's just like another athletic part of your body.
Yes,
and
yes.
Your spirit governs it as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it would be something I would enjoy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see what goes. They're busy with their lives. I'm busy with my lives.
Yeah.
It's just like you with your podcast. We're hoping to set a couple hours aside and read some stories.
Yeah.
And if
the short stories that they're writing.
Theirs, but I wouldn't mind doing others. I've gone through writers myself that I enjoy reading, like Steinbeck. Because he covered the American.
I was going to say, do you have any classics? But you definitely said Steinbeck, yeah.
Cannery Row is a fun one.
Oh, okay.
That was a Steinbeck novel.
Okay, Cannery Row.
And it was, you're out in California because that's where he had resided.
Okay.
And he wrote about a bunch of the people out there.
Yeah.
Creating, the 20th century frontier.
Love it. I love how you place that. Yes.
And, America goes through its manifestations.
And you'll never know what the younger generation wants to, because we see it a different way than they would see their current landscape.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's what matters. That's how they build a
It's a different type of excitement for them.
Yeah. Okay.
Everything's a little more fresh.
Yeah.
Me, it's a little redundant because I've walked around the block a few times trying to solve my own, worldly thoughts.
Yeah.
So
I'm assuming that you definitely enjoy being around these young minds, because their thinking is different, their perception of the world is different. They're not as defeated, they're more optimistic, if anything, fresh. But people your age, maybe they're more same old same. Do you feel like that? Is that? Did I kind of hit? Was I?
Yeah.
Was I somewhere on point?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And you've got to be careful when you're in my age, because I sometimes get frustrated with my generation. But it's hard for me because we have taken such different journeys to get through. Some of my friends have raised kids, now they're raising grandkids.
Yeah.
Now they're retiring.
Yeah.
Me, at this state in my life, I'm single now, divorced, and I just try and work to make ends meet.
How long were you married, by the way?
Oh God, I was married roughly around 10, 12 years. My wife and I were together.
Yeah.
And, I've dated around. And right now, that's an interesting thing because I still feel romantic. But at 62 years of age, is it still in the cards?
There's an app out there. There are.
I'm sure there are,
and
broke white old male living in a room in Burke, Virginia. I'm a catch.
But I mean, that's what you feel on the.
But I've got to change now. That's a persona I need to change for myself.
Thank you. Is that where you're going to throw up into the ether, man? Is that where if you could throw it up into the ether? I like how you say, I still feel romantic. You're still optimistic about love, and I love it. Yeah. And who knows? Maybe there's somebody out there of that age group, of maybe an individual out there, another soul out there who's also looking for companionship. That's what you look, right? Companionship.
And it's a funny thing because I was just talking to my cousin's wife. He had passed away a few months back, and we grew up together. He's a a couple of years younger than me, massive heart attack. And, you know, his wife's having to sell the house in Annandale
Yeah.
because the mortgage is such and whatnot. And she's like, I don't think I could get married again. And we were talking, and went to a wedding about 2 months ago. Two
Uh-huh.
friends of mine got married. She was
Oh,
80, he was 76.
look at them.
Okay. They've been going out for 15 years. No problems. They said, let's get married. And they didn't want to bring the kids involved. The kids caught wind after they got married and they were furious.
Why?
Well, because they're looking at their properties, the money, mom, you know, what's going to be. So next thing you know, my friend and his now wife have strained issues. And I'm like, you guys haven't even changed the bed sheets. No pun intended. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
and
yeah.
they're an age. And so it's really it's fun and fascinating though. But as you get older, sometimes there's complications with getting married. And you know, there's somebody I kind of like right now, and she's kind of settled in on her life. She has a son that's graduating from high school. She
Yeah.
has a business. She dates, but I could see she's not one that's probably going to want to settle down and get married. So is it?
But does
Is,
companionship have to relate to marriage?
no, it does not. And at the same time, when you get to be my age, sometimes you need just that little bit of love every now and then.
I
Okay.
think that's at any age. You know what I mean?
What?
That could be at any age.
Okay.
You know, the
Oh,
companionship.
absolutely. Because you
Yeah.
don't want to smother anyone. That's for sure. Because we all live our own lives, and you know we've all
Yeah.
got our we all got
Yeah.
our set our pair of wings.
Yeah.
And so sometimes, you know, I guess that's a selfishness on my part. You know, am I needy? Because, you know, I want to have that companionship.
No, you're a human being. You know, we look for such companionship. We do. We
Yes.
as being as you know we, I mean we especially with today's work and so on and the way that we live our life, we appreciate our closeness.
Right.
You know, our individualism. But I feel like the human touch, the human interaction is
And I'll tell
so
you,
necessary.
and another thing I work with is companionship to myself.
Yeah, that's
You know,
important as well.
yeah, you know, I got to get along with myself sometimes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, because
You know,
I can be a real. And
hey, at least you are aware of it, and that's so powerful. That you know that you can be a
yeah, and sometimes you know you know yeah. I work at that, you know. We
self-aware.
all do, and you know sometimes you get a little delusional, you
Yeah,
know. Or you know, you kid yourself, but are you kidding yourself?
yeah, yeah.
You know.
So you recently started writing music again and playing music?
Uh, actually, I had an accident out in Herndon. I collapsed
Recently or
a few months back,
okay.
and I went boom.
At
And the
work
next,
or at a social
no, I
event?
was at seeing a concert, and I had worked at the nursery all day, and I got dehydrated.
So you
And I,
forgot to drink water.
yes, and well, they took me because I've had many heart episodes. So they didn't play around. They took me right in.
Mm.
And so the next day, after they gave me the IV bag, I was like, wow, we're good. And I was very lucky. You know, I did kind of mess up this shoulder and whatnot, but I was out and rested.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine, he grew up with my cousin. And the last time I saw him, we went to the memorial service for my cousin because grew up in Annandale with him.
Yeah.
And Sal is a talented accountant, but he's a wonderful writer.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful writer. Oh, God. And so I was like, you know, we got talking because I called him up. I said, hey, Sal, I have to go up back to Reston Hospital, pick up a couple belongings and whatnot that they have at the fire station. Want to go do lunch?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because and I lost one of my hearing aids and they had it there.
My gosh, yeah.
And so he said, sure. And I said, you know, Sal, been messing around with the guitar a little bit. I got a melody. Oh, and he works from home. And he says, I'll tell you what, throw the guitar on the guitar and I'll hear what it sounds like. And I said, great. And so, you know, he says, I'll buy you lunch. I said, okay. So I went and got my hearing aid, told him I'm good to go. And so we went to lunch, and we pulled into this park, sat on a park bench, played the melody, whistled what I had in my head. And I get home at night and email.
Mm.
Wow.
Boy, yeah.
And I'm like, I can work with this. And so then, you know, next day I kind of pulled it back up and took a different look at it and says, okay, what do I got?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, because what I had in my mind, I initially started the song. I went to Northern Virginia Community College years ago,
Yeah, okay.
and I had a class
For
with this.
music.
No, I forget what class it was. And I was sitting out front with this young lady, and she had come from California, and she had a boyfriend. They were residing here.
Hmm.
She was taking classes, and she was telling me about how her mom's taking care of her grandmother back in California. And
Yeah.
so, you're here and there. And so, I was thinking, okay. And so I had these lines. Grandma's ailing, mom needs a help to guide her. I love her. My boyfriend's in Virginia.
Mm,
All right. So, she is,
yeah.
and I just put that on the shelf.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, but I liked the melody.
Yeah.
It had a nice walk down to it. And so I, started messing around with chords not too long ago, and I kind of found that one again.
Yeah.
And so the melody I already had words inscribed in my head. So now when Sal had written these lyrics, not having heard those words, it was a whole different story. Now here, this one he had written, it was about autumn and fall.
Okay.
Walking through the forest on a sunny day makes me feel like you're next to me, not 1,000 miles away. The leaves are turning, they're just about to fall. It's so damn pretty, but I feel nothing at all.
Oh.
And it just goes out. And so I'm like, okay, well, this is different.
Yeah.
And so, I was like, okay, I'm going to have to write a change for this.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm sitting there on the guitar because he's got the stanza of lyric. And so then I found one.
Yeah.
Come on,
Did you
babe.
do this before when you were younger? Like melody, compose music, lyrics and stuff?
Did I what?
Did you do it when you were younger?
Oh,
Or,
no.
So you kind of just.
I played ball, but I knew if you look at my eyes, I have funny eyes, like I see two of you.
Oh.
So I have to pick one or the other to look out of.
Gotcha.
So I was good at athletics, but I had my limitations.
That's so cool that at this age of your life, at this phase of your life, you are finding ways to develop melody and, tap into your musical side.
I'll tell you what.
Because I think that's
My
really
dad,
cool.
my dad always enjoyed music.
But
Okay.
that's different than what you're doing right now, which is composing.
Well, no, actually, what I'm doing now, I don't want to be morbid, is a bucket list. I lost a friend of mine last year who was a wonderful writer. I mean, my writing doesn't compare near to his. He was a brilliant writer.
Okay.
I should let you hear some of his stuff on YouTube.
Yeah,
he had played in the Cap Center in DC.
Do you remember his YouTube handler? So our viewers can. Do you remember his YouTube handler? His YouTube channel name?
Oh, we were called The Rail.
The Rail.
The Rail.
RAIL.
Yeah, and
anybody wants to look it up.
And it was interesting. You'll see a wonderful picture because there was a very famous artist that used to live right down the street, an elderly gentleman. I was a cashier at the Annandale Giant for 20 years.
Jeez, yeah.
So I used to watch life pass me by all day long in all sizes and shapes, moms,
the grocery store, yeah.
And Gino was this wonderful artist.
Yeah.
And he would come in and he would buy his 2 beers. Yeah. And he would paint at night. And he would go to New York and people from overseas would meet him and buy his artwork.
Oh, good for you. Yeah.
There's a city down the street from here called Falls Church.
There is, yeah.
And years ago, my favorite gig was playing for art shows. Because I wouldn't get drunk and I'd be home by 9 o'clock. The wife liked those.
And wife liked those?
Well, yeah, because she didn't want me out, coming home at 2 a.m. with beer on my breath, lugging stuff into the house.
Yeah.
Okay. A little old for that at the time.
Yeah.
And so my cousin, God rest his soul, one of his neighbors in Annandale, who was from Sri Lanka, was a wonderful percussionist.
Okay.
He said, Matt, I'll tell you what. Because he used to do theatrical rigging and design, and he knew this art gallery. And they wanted somebody to do background music. He said, Matt, and I'm really good at coming up with music off the top of my head. Just give me
that is a gift, yeah.
What's this?
That is a gift.
Well, we all have our genius, it's just sometimes like a coin, we have the backside as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it was real fun. And so one night, this artist that comes through my line at Giant, I said, Gino, I'm playing up in a gallery up in Falls Church.
Yeah.
Oh, really? I need to come up there and hear you play.
Yeah.
He comes in there, the guy that owns the gallery falls flat on his face going, you know this man?
Oh.
I was like, yeah, he's one of my customers at Giant. And then he's trying to tell me he's one of the most sought after artists on the East Coast. And I'm like, Gino, the guy that buys his 2 Budweisers and goes home and paints at night? I'm not realizing, to me, he was just like my next customer.
Right,
But we used to have some
exactly.
fun-spirited conversations. He was from
Yes.
Croatia.
Oh, okay, Croatia, yeah.
Yeah. And so one day I told him I'm doing a music project, and he had said, I'll paint you a little something. And he said, what are you going to call yourselves? I said, The Rail.
Okay.
You know, because I had written a song about riding the rails.
Yeah.
Years ago, I had a young lady from William and Mary break my heart. She decided to go to med school instead of stay with me.
Okay.
Couldn't blame her at the time. We were young.
Yeah.
And she went out west to med school.
Yeah.
And so I told Billy, I said, you know, I like the rail.
Yeah.
And so he painted this nice little picture. And then I went into the studio with Billy, and we were using some, I don't want to be stereotyped, but some Christian artists at a Korean church.
Okay.
And they were wonderful musicians.
Yeah.
Very well educated and very good.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, they were Christians, so you had to be kind of delicate around them. A story, I don't know if I want to, you know, I don't want to bore you out or wear you out, was one of the ladies played for the National Symphony Orchestra as a violinist.
Yeah. Of that level, yeah.
Oh, we used to have a thing called the fishbowl.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we'd come in there with a piece of music. Okay. And in this digital age, we don't sit around and play at the same time. We lay down a piece of the music, and then you go into the room and then you add on to that music, whatever the instrument may be.
Yeah.
And so we said, I brought this lady, a friend of mine brought this lady in. She was a wonderful violinist. And she said, well, I need the sheet music. And I said, well, it doesn't really have any. I need you to just do improvisation from here to here. And she said, well, I need the notes. And I said, well, that's the improvisation. This is the key. You find the scale and
join in or whatever. Yeah.
Have fun.
Yeah.
And so she was sitting there, and I said, I said in my mind, you know, not being stereotypical, but I know Asian women love figure skating. And we happened, you know, they had just had the Olympics and whatnot. I said, do you like figure skating? She says, yes. And I said, well, you know how they have the compulsories where you have to skate in a circle and, you know, and then they go to the medal round where you have your free skate and you can do what you want. And she said, yes.
That's
and
what
I
this
said,
is.
well, there you go.
That's freestyling. Yeah.
Yeah. I said,
beautiful analogy.
I just need you from, and oh, her tone was just,
yeah.
I've got a piece that Billy wrote, well, there's a heaven, there are angels. I know I'm blessed with one. She wakes me every morning. Man, she is my rising sun. My walk has purpose, my life meaning. Without her, there is none. Where there's a heaven, there are angels. I know, for I have one. And then she starts in on the violin, and you're like,
well, you know the lyrics. Yeah.
If you get a chance, I'll let you hear it. It's a beautiful piece. Yeah. I'd be great on one of those USA Network TV movies.
Yeah. But you were going out about your bucket list. You came up with a bucket list.
Yeah, because
you had an incident happen to you and your friend passed away.
You know,
So what's on the bucket list?
Before we did this podcast, you and I were talking about mortality. And I kind of had a talk with myself, and I tried to have conversations with my parents, because if it wasn't for them, there would be no me.
Are your parents still around?
Excuse me?
Are your parents still around?
No, they've passed on. I'm the youngest of 5.
Okay.
And I'm 62. My mom had me late in life. She was 40, 41.
Okay.
They were wonderful. But, you know, I don't aspire to live much longer. Maybe with a few more years. And I had this conversation with my brothers and some of my siblings, and they just think, you know, go get some help and don't drink so much. And at the same time, I know some of them have their medical issues. like my one brother, he married his high school sweetheart. He's older than me, and they're living in a house in the woods. Their kids have gone on and done their own things, and he's having real health issues. And I'm going, God, it's got to be a struggle.
Yeah.
Uh, and I'm thinking, at least he's got Margaret, and he's got his kids to look after him. And I'm thinking, God, because we both he was a wonderful athlete, great runner, but he had a heart issue like I did.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, and now he's got, because there are certain medicines they kept him on. I think it created some other debilitating effects.
Of course, yeah.
I was very fortunate because Inova and the Cardiovascular Institute did an amazing job with me. I've seen my cardiologist in 2 weeks. But getting back to my brother, it's just like, right now, it's just basically me. I'm kind of Huck Finn. And I don't want to get to that point if I start having, physical ailments and whatnot. Who am I going to be at mercy of?
Is how you feel.
Okay. Now, my one brother, my oldest brother's like, man, shut the fuck up. You're in great health. You go to the gym. What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
And, being the youngest, I'm like, God, I'm still blowing up wind to my older brothers and sisters. And, I gave him a bunch of my music equipment. He's like, why are you giving me your music equipment? I'm like, man, look, I'm couch surfing, have been for the last 5-10 years, and I don't see that ending.
Yeah.
So I don't really need all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I said, one of the things I enjoy over the years is working with writers or myself. And I was always envious of my father because he was a wonderful sculptor.
Mm-hmm.
But he did something that I, as I look back now in fondness, was he was able to complete things. Like I'll start something and I'll put it up on a shelf.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And I can remember my dad, I'd go down to the basement. And I'd be like, Dad, you're still working on it. He's like, yeah, I got to finish it though.
That's
it's not one of my favorite
habit, yeah.
pieces, but I got to finish it.
That's a good habit.
And at the time, I really never thought much of that.
Yeah.
Okay. But as I've gotten older, I'm like, wow, at least Dad followed through and he finished it. And then he could go on to the next one saying, my vision, I completed that.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, I kind of really, as I've gotten older, admire that, because I've had a lot of stuff that, yeah, this is good. But, I didn't finish it. I just set it away. And I've told myself, darn it, I'm going to finish some of these pieces and maybe work out a couple more.
Nice.
I've lost my writer, Billy. But I found my old friend Sal, who's an accountant now,
yeah.
who's got as bad, if not more of a dire heart situation I am. He's got a bad aorta.
Oh, okay.
They're going to have to crack him open in the next 5 years.
Okay.
And I've had this mortality conversation with him, and he's not happy with me either.
Oh, okay.
He's like, fuck you. I'm the one that's probably going to die unless they crack my chest open.
Okay. Yeah.
And so my goal is, I was thinking, by the time I turn 65, 66, maybe get a year of Social Security, enjoy it, and then, dissipate. I guess almost, did you ever see the movie Harold and Maude?
Harold, no.
Wonderful movie. There was a singer-songwriter named Cat Stevens.
Okay.
He became a Muslim and he changed his name.
Okay.
He wrote amazing stuff when we were kids. He wrote Wild World. It's not time to make a change.
What's
Just
on your
sit down,
bucket list?
take it easy. You're still young. That's your fault. There's so much we'll have to find out. Find a girl, settle down. He wrote a lot of those type of songs.
Yeah.
Well, he wrote a soundtrack for a movie called Harold and Maude.
Okay.
And basically, Harold was this kid that used to go to funerals. He liked hanging out at funerals.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
And he meets this lady who is another famous actress, Ruth Gordon, who's an old lady.
Okay.
And by coincidence, she does the same thing. Okay? Now, Harold was this very affluent kid. Mm-hmm. Mom's got loads of money, and it's just her and her son.
Okay.
And she's trying to meet him up with all these dashing, beautiful girls, and Harold wants no part of it. So he just kind of fakes suicides just to terrorize Mom.
Yeah.
And so now he meets this elderly lady, Ruth Gordon, and they start having a romance together. And she's in her 70s and he's in his early 20s, and they start doing bongs and driving around. doing crazy stuff together.
Okay.
Wonderful comedy. It's called Harold and Maude. I highly recommend.
Thank you. I will. But what's on your bucket list now?
Uh,
Because you talked about traveling earlier.
yes. Now traveling costs money.
Hold on, but have you traveled internationally before?
Just to Canada and Mexico.
Okay. I mean, you have a U.S. passport. You have a U.S. passport.
It's expired. I can get another one.
Sure, and the United States is, is welcome in many countries, and the dollar, up until today, goes more.
It's very strong.
Like Thailand would probably be about 30, 40 baht. Vietnam, South America.
That was a $2,000. That's a $2,000 plane ticket.
You can earn that in a couple of checks.
I watch a lot of the international movies on YouTube. Some of the Korean ones are pretty funny.
Korean. I feel like Korean is very tourist friendly. I'm sure, because sometimes you want to go to places where it's. Oh, you have those tour groups. Would you ever consider a tour group? I've seen them for the Japanese when I used to work at the hotel.
Yeah, I mean, actually, there's on the Travel
seniors.
Channel. I love the guy who bicycles around Japan because that's something I'm hoping to buy this spring as a bicycle.
Yeah,
I used to ride. I used to ride from Merrifield to Reston every day.
Yeah, I really hope you consider traveling. It's a really beautiful way to get in touch with back to.
Right. Well, I mean,
have you seen the world outside of
it costs
Amazon?
money. I'm a minimum wage earner, so.
But you can also save.
What?
You can also save a little bit here, a little bit here. Well, okay. How about this, Matt? Before we even go into traveling and the money and the what, would you, from your heart, tell the ether, I think I want to see a little bit of the world, to the ether?
Oh, absolutely. I love people.
And then after that, now we'll say, now you begin to solve the little crux, that will help you get to that mission, which is see a little bit of the world. Maybe do a tour group. Maybe ride your bike in Japan.
Oh, absolutely. Germany. I would love to go to Europe.
Bike rides in Europe.
Oh,
Amsterdam, yeah.
Maybe, my brother goes, because he's a scientist, so he used to travel around the world all the time. And I'd hear from him. And my mother and father every few years would go to Europe.
Yeah.
My dad didn't
sometimes people can have all the money, but they would lack the courage or the something to get on a plane or see the world or anything. You know what I mean? Like,
well, sure.
Everybody has their own
their comfort level.
Comfort level or short-sightedness. They have all the money all the time, but I can't.
was very fortunate in how my brother and mom raised the five of us. Yeah. Because one of the things she taught us, like if somebody invited us over to dinner, you were to eat every bite of that plate. You don't necessarily have to ask for seconds, Matthew. But when somebody invites you over to dinner and you go to dinner, you make sure you finish whatever they serve you.
Even if you
don't like it.
Out of respect.
Absolutely. And my mom, she was a teacher. Yeah. She first was a intelligence officer over here in Langley, and then she went to Chicago and became a high school teacher. But that was something she instilled in us, and probably more in me because she knew I wasn't going to be as book smart as book learned as my brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
And she was a Christian, so she's, and her big thing was manners first.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're rich or poor, maintain your manners.
Manners, okay.
Because that opens up a lot of doors.
Yeah.
And how people perceive you. And I try to remember that. Like I said, some days I can be short with some people and say things and I go, but I think that's why I think going overseas, I don't think I'd have as much of an issue, even though, I'm a little older now and I'm going.
You'd be surprised. Because when I worked at the hotel, they used to have tour groups come in for Japanese people. They would come from Japan to, Washington, D.C., but they would come in a bus.
Uh-huh.
And they have those all.
Sure. I see the Peter Pan bus and,
but this is like they reserved it. The entire bus is specifically for this tour group, and they're all senior citizens.
Right.
One was from Kansas. They came here to visit the Washington, D.C. area, and they were all senior citizens. So I'm telling you. And you know what? It's the traveling, it does lighten up the spirit. And you're surrounded by this mortality, I can't tell. I can't say, well, you're thinking I'm unable. How can I say that? I have not experienced life as much as you have. But I can at
Oh,
least say that. I can at least
I don't know. I
suggest,
don't
would you
know.
consider traveling? Especially because your heart is like putting it out there. You're like saying, oh, so I really hope you do, because for me, at least, it lightened up my spirit when I traveled. I I felt like the world was
Sure,
bigger.
because
The world
it's
was,
something fresh. Now,
and the world did
something
seem
I
bigger.
do
Yeah,
enjoy is driving.
yeah. But it's different when you.
America, you go from one town to the next, and it's still the same type of shopping mall.
Yes,
You
yes,
see a
no, yeah.
Starbucks, grocery store, restaurant, and you can go 200 miles, and it'll be very
Same,
similar in that
you
regard.
got your McDonald's, your drive-throughs.
Right. They're
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
syndicated. Uh, but I do. My cousin who passed away left a bunch of camping equipment, because when he was young, he used to take the
Yeah.
kids camping. I was like telling his wife, does he have a 2-man tent, 3-man tent?
There you go. Yeah.
Because I'm also on the Appalachian Trail
Yeah,
thing,
man.
because I walk
There
a
you
lot.
go. There you go. And nature is always also another good place to be.
Yeah,
Before we wrap it up, okay? So part of my viewers, I suggested them a resolution, New Year's resolution, and I suggested 3 themes.
yesterday was New Year's.
For Lunar Chinese New Year's, yes,
Absolutely.
yeah. But quite for you, I'll give you one that I feel like do you journal? Because I feel like journaling is also a good way. That was one suggestion I gave to our viewers.
What, just to display my thoughts on a sheet
Yeah.
of paper?
Do you practice journal? Yeah, journaling.
I don't.
For somebody who writes as much and composes as much, he's next on the queue.
What's this?
No, but do you consider journaling, or would you consider journaling?
I've got the notebooks for it. Sometimes
do
I
it. You
click
gotta
on
do
my
it.
computer and I start reading other people's stuff. And sometimes I'm thinking maybe I should just sit there and, write down thoughts.
You gotta do it. You gotta.
I get up usually. I get up
already.
usually between 4 or 5 and try and get my coffee, do yoga.
Right before your coffee, maybe. Right before your coffee, a sentence or two. You're doing
Now,
yoga.
let me ask you this.
What's up?
Every day is a new life, right?
Yeah.
Because when you go to bed tonight, today is but a memory.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
And then when you wake up tomorrow, you got a new life.
Yeah.
Because you never know what's going to happen between,
Yeah.
your resting state and your awoken state. So I guess, when I start a new life tomorrow on the 31st, Friday, that is, maybe a sentence to guide me, maybe.
Okay.
And maybe when I get ready to retire tonight and today becomes just a memory, and I remember this moment with Prak.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll journal that down, 1/30, 2025, Thursday.
The first day after New Year's Eve, Chinese New Year, the year of the snake.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Matt. It's
Absolutely.
been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good luck to you. And your bucket list.
Okay. Well, you guys